Welcome to Deep Thought. New Age snobs. Now, this is an interesting one because this is actually inspired by a comment that was left on my main channel, and I was wrong. I was talking about sex, and someone made a comment about being caught in your lower chakras, and I just laughed as I deleted the comment. And yeah, I deleted it because to me it was stupid. One, it didn't show an understanding of chakras. I mean, because in that case, for people who follow that philosophy, that line of thinking, that school of thought, they'll talk about opening their chakras and everything. But usually there are people who would say anything disparaging about lower chakras. Really, for whatever reason, their upper ones are open, or somewhat open, never fully open. But the lower ones are closed for whatever reason. And it's chakra configuration or something. That's something, like I said, that's a particular school of thought. And as I've said on here, I don't like promoting like specific paths. Everyone has to find their own path, and all paths have to be respected. That being said, I looked at it, I say, yeah, someone who truly has their chakras open ain't going to have a problem with the sex because they're not suppressing any of their chakras. They realize as above, so below. Yes, you want your upper ones open, but really for them to truly open, you need the lower ones open. You can't suppress one aspect of yourself and think you're spiritual because of the other one. And that's what a lot of people maybe who get into that, a lot of New Agers do. It's funny. And I will talk about different paths as to make my point that you get a lot of people who may have started off Christian or primarily Christian, and they get into something else. They'll get into what's so-called New Age path. The reality, only really New Age path is any UFO worshipers or any religion centered around UFOs. All the paths they call New Age are just existed pre-Christianity. And there's nothing really new. They just existed. And, the Spanish Inquisition did a good job of stamping them out in Europe. Still practiced in many places. But what happens is, somebody, they get that information. And basically they become another form of religious snob, just like, or any fundamentalist in any path. Everybody think their path is the correct one. And then sometimes they will use that against you. Now, the New Age snobs, the funny thing is they'll use that like, oh, your chakras you don't know it. And usually they new to the path, because when people get new to any path, they get a bit obnoxious with some stuff. They really do. They get obnoxious, like, because it's almost like I know something that you don't. But a lot of times they really don't, because if you want to learn any path, I don't care what it is, you can't learn it from Barnes and Noble, some books that you found there. You probably need a guide or a teacher. And and really is a cultural aspect too. So you need to live it. So, but it's interesting because really it speaks to something, and it's not even just a New Age snob, but it could be someone becoming Christian for the first time, becoming Muslim for the first time, Jewish, Hebrew Israelite, Buddhist, or it could be somebody not so much the New Age stuff, but Wiccan, pagan. And it's like they get that information, but then they try to look down on somebody for practicing something that they feel is against their information. And really, that doesn't have anything to do with the religion. They use it as an excuse. Like many people, like you'll have throughout history, you've had primarily men who've used religion as a way to control another group of people. And they'll conquer an area and then convert them, or to try to get their way with women. They'll say, oh, well, we're doing this through the women. Like an example now of a good example of that principle is this TV show on Hulu I've been watching. Really good show, The Handmaid's Tale. And anybody's watched it knows about a fundamentalist Christian group that takes over the United States. And I mean, when I say Christian, they only follow their particular brand of Christianity, because if you follow the books or the backstories and stuff, they fighting everybody else, and they will even hang priests and everything. But they use this. You'll find that they speak one thing. One dynamic was these men will speak one thing in public, you know, trying to be all pious and everything, but then they had brothels where they were like getting their stuff off, or they were cheating on their wives or something like that. But it was used as a power thing. See, that's one thing. A lot of times people use their spiritual path as a power thing, or a way to tell themselves that they're better than the next person. And that's one thing was, I thought about that person when they did that, and I said, yeah, they still learning a lot. Because any true understanding of spirituality, any true understanding is nothing is evil, or you just don't suppress anything. As above, so below. But each one has its job it's supposed to do. Heaven and earth are really equal. They're not separate, or else we wouldn't be here. We come here. It's important that we come here for a lesson. You know, however you choose to say it, we're here. So it's important that we live a certain way and treat each other a certain way. But then you get some people, you know, they learn something and they think, you know, they become judgmental. They'll become judgmental and they'll say, well, that's not how you're supposed to do it. This is how you're supposed to. It's like, usually somebody like that usually has a controlling personality. And usually you'll find a lot of them in spiritual organizations. And it's interesting. I could halfway do a show on the type of personalities you find in there, but you'll find a lot of that, because best way to, if you want to conquer another people or really control people, you do it through their spiritual systems. I mean, any religious scholar can tell you that's how it's happened. Isn't that the whole spiritual enlightenment thing doesn't really happen? In fact, I'm gonna get into what any spiritual system should be teaching you in my next podcast. But you know, it's interesting, because what happened is people transfer what they learned in other. Because I've known people, it's amazing. I've known people who maybe switch spiritual paths, but their personality doesn't change. It's just how it's expressed. You know, it's like, or it could even be philosophical paths. Like, I've known a lot of vegans, and I might adopt veganism or at least go without meat for certain periods of the year. But you know, make no mistake, I'm still going to rough off those buffalo wings. But even listening to that, I can guarantee there's at least one hardcore vegans listening to me and shaking their heads. And then, I mean, I've heard of some vegans, they ready to fight you. You up there just trying to eat a hot dog or something. They like, well, this got this and that. They ready to slap me. I knew one vegan, he said he's going to slap. He's trying to slap food out of people's stuff. Yeah, he laughed about that as he was trying to get some of my buffalo wings. So, yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. And then this is nothing against, let me just be clear, this ain't nothing against anybody who would practice a New Age spiritual path. But I just used that moment as a teaching moment to illustrate how someone in really any path can become snobbish and think, oh yeah, this way is the right way. Well, it's the right way for you, but that other person has to be respected. So anyway, that's something to think about. It's like your path is really your path, and it's really the thing of, if you have a path, show the beauty of it through your actions. That's all I say. And there's beautiful people in all paths. Every single path, there's beautiful people. So anyway, something to think about. I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.